Okay, welcome to our last lesson on quadratic functions for the week. So we've started getting into not just quadratic functions, but quadratic equations and how the methods of solving a quadratic equation are, the same and different from other forms of equation solving. So just as when you solve a linear equation, you can solve it by graphing, you can solve a quadratic function by graphing as well. And so I'll show you a couple of examples of ones that might be a little bit tricky to solve algebraically, but you can check your answers by graphing or just solve them straight out by graphing. So for example, x plus 4 quantity squared minus 3 equals 22. This one is very solvable algebraically, but we can graph it to check our work. So in order to graph it, what we do is we're going to use a tool like Desmos, or in a future class when we're back together again, I can show you how to use the TI-83 calculator, but without actually having them in our hands. That's going to be a little tougher to do, so we'll just use Desmos to solve these graphically. To solve these in Desmos, you're going to graph this function in one graph, and then you'll graph y equals 22 in a separate graph, and you'll look for the places where they intersect, because we're looking for the place where the graph of this hits the y value of 22, like what are the x coordinates that work for that. So we'll do that over here in Desmos. So it's x plus 4 quantity squared minus 3. Let me see if I can copy and paste this. Okay. So in order to do squares in Desmos, it's a little bit, that's my dog gagging over there. It's a little different than how you do it in Word. You do x plus 4, you end the parentheses, and then to raise it to the second power, hit Shift 6 to lift it up, and then you raise it to the second power. And I think it was minus 3. Let me go back to my Google Doc and look. Minus 3. Okay, so this is the function x plus 4 quantity squared minus 3. If you're not sure how to get here, it's desmos.com, and then hit the little red button that says Start Graphing. Okay, next line down, we're going to graph, I should say, y equals, because on the next graph down, we're going to graph y equals 22. So y equals 22 is just a horizontal line at the coordinate y equals 22. All of these places are where y equals 22. And these two dots that you see here, that's where this parabola intersects y equals 22. And at the place where y equals 22, you can just draw a line straight down to see what the x coordinate is at that point. Desmos also has the fun feature where you can click on these points and it will tell you the x coordinates at them. So the x coordinate here is -9, and the x coordinate here is 1. And just for grins, you can plug them back into the function to make sure they work. -9 plus 4 is -5. -5 squared is 25. 25 minus 3 is 22. And then this point here, the answer is 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 squared is 25. And then 25 minus 3 is 22. You can see graphically why we sometimes get two solutions to a quadratic equation, because this parabola has two places where this horizontal line will intersect it. So two places where you can draw a line straight down and see what the x coordinate is. Okay, next example. X squared plus 8x minus 7 equals 2. Now this isn't written in vertex form, so at the moment we don't have easy strategies for solving this equation. Taking a square root is not going to be all that easy, because it's not as straightforward as just like square rooting one side. You can see if I add 7 to both sides, I'd get x squared. Let me raise that back down, plus 8x equals 9. And so we kind of are left in this weird place where we can't square root this whole side of the equation, because you can't take the square root of 8x squared plus 8x. That's not an expression that's a perfect square. We can't take the 8x away from both sides and then do the square root, because we're left in this weird position where we've got the square root of 9 minus 8x. This one's just it's way too messy to solve by square rooting. But solving it by graphing might be really doable. So we'll take x squared plus 8x minus 7 on Desmos, and then y equals 2 on Desmos, and see where they intersect. So get rid of these two. Y equals x Shift 6 to raise it to the second power, squared, and then arrow over to bring it back down again, plus 8x minus 7, and then you get your parabola. And then lastly, we'll graph y equals 2. And then at this place, we can see two places where that parabola intersects that horizontal line. One of them is where x equals 1, and one of them is where x equals -9. And just to prove it to yourself, try plugging it into the equation. -9 squared is 81. 81 plus 8 times -9 is -72. So 81 plus -72 would be +9. And then +9 minus 7 is 2. Let's try 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Plus 8 times 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 minus 7 is 2. So those two numbers both work, and you get two answers to the equation. Last one. X minus 2 times x plus 4 equals 7. So we'll do that one. And this one, you remember, it's a quadratic, even though it looks like it's not. Sorry, let me see what that is again. Because it's the product of two binomials, and if we expand it, we'd see it's a quadratic. X minus 2 times, oh my goodness, minus 2 times the quantity x plus 4. I can do this. And yep, that's that function. And that equals y. And then the next one down, y equals 7. And you can see there's that horizontal line. Again, we get a parabola, and it crosses the horizontal line here and here. The solutions are 3 and -5. So you can plug in 3 for x, and 3 minus 2 is 1. 3 plus 4 is 7. 1 times 7 is 7. Try -5. -5 minus 2 is -7. -5 plus 4 is -1. -7 times -1 is 7. So that's how that function works. Last one, just to show an example of a non-example. -x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 1. So let me plug these two into Desmos so you can see what they look like. Boop and boop. -x squared plus 2x minus 8. Y equals -x squared plus, why do I forget? 2x minus 8. Okay, and then the next one is y equals 1. We're in this weird situation here where there's our parabola that represents this red function, and here's the horizontal line that represents this function. Notice that they don't cross at all. So there's no numbers that you can find that would make this equation work out to 1. And that's what that graph suggests to us. The graph will get as high as -7, it looks like, and then it starts going back down again. And so it'll never get to +1. You can't plug any real numbers into that equation and make it equal +1. It just isn't possible. So if you see a graphing solution like this, the answer to this is there's no solution. You can't solve it. One last example I'll show you is there are some cases where you have a single solution. So let's say we had the equation x squared plus 3 equals 3. Okay, and then we wanted to see where that equaled 3. So we'll make that be y, and then we'll make y equal 3. And notice that the parabola crosses this horizontal line right at the vertex. So there's only one solution to this one. 3 is the only answer, or sorry, 0 rather, because the x is 0. 0 is the only answer that makes this work out to be 3. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. There's no other numbers you can plug into this function that make it equal to 3. This has one solution. So there's those possibilities when you're solving quadratic equations. You can have two solutions, you can have one solution, or you can have 0 solutions. And your homework task for this assignment is it's a creative one. I want you to write 2 quadratic equations in each category. So create 2 quadratic equations that have 2 solutions. you'll make the equation of a parabola and make the equation of a horizontal line, show the graph of that parabola and that horizontal line, and explain what the two solutions are. Do this for 2 equations. Do 2 equations that have one solution. Show a parabola and show how it exactly intersects a horizontal line right there at the vertex, and explain that one solution. And then graph 2 equations that have no solutions. A parabola that doesn't intersect a horizontal line at all, and show why there are no solutions to that equation. So, and again, an equation has an equal sign and it has one variable in it. So you'll write 6 equations total, 2 that have 2 solutions, 2 that have 1 solution, 2 that have 0 solutions. I wish you luck on the assignment. Let me know if I can do anything to help. Thank you.